Good morning. This is the second part to your history lesson. We're going to read a little Aesop's fable about Androcles, or called Androcles and the Lion, which is about a senator. Now, this is just a fable. It's not a true story. And as you are going to see, it's not very realistic. But it is an interesting little story of a gladiator and lion. Okay. So you'll also be writing a little paragraph of your own version of this story. So we'll talk about that as soon as we're done with this. Now, Androcles was a Roman slave who escaped his master and ran away. He was delighted with his freedom, but uncertain how he could make it on his own. As night fell, he found a cave carved naturally out of the hillside. He crept into the cool darkness, lay down, and fell asleep. Suddenly, he awoke, hearing the loud roar of a lion nearby. It was no dream, it was a real lion looking straight into the cave. Androcles shrank back, fearful for his life, watching the lion's every move. Then he noticed that the lion was suffering. It was roaring in pain. The great beast limped into the cave and flopped down. It lifted its right front paw and licked it. Androcles took a step toward the lion. The big cat gave him a sad look, as if asking for help. Androcles crouched next to the lion. He saw a thorn stuck in the middle of its paw. Gently, he pulled the thorn out. The lion looked him in the eye again and purred. That was the beginning of a warm friendship between Androcles and the lion. They lived together in the cave and slept side by side, keeping each other warm. But one day, Roman soldiers discovered Androcles. The law of Rome said that runaway slaves must be punished, so Androcles was captured and shut into a prison cell in the city of Rome. For 10 days, Androcles sat alone in prison, fed nothing but water and crusts of stale bread. Then a soldier announced that he was to meet his death in the Colosseum. Androcles knew what that meant. Runaway slaves were often made to fight vicious lions before crowds of Roman citizens. He knew as he walked the path from the prison to the Colosseum that he would soon die. The crowd cheered as Androcles stepped into the arena. They cheered even more loudly as the lion appeared on the other side. Androcles walked into the ring and bravely faced his death. Then he and the lion recognized each other. To the amazement of the crowd, instead of attacking, the lion began licking the slave's face. And the slave began stroking the lion. The crowd cheered even more. "Free the slave! Free the lion!" They were yelling, and the emperor agreed. Androcles and the lion lived a long life together in the city of Rome. So not a realistic story, but so sweet. They became good friends, and the lion really repaid Androcles for Androcles being such a good friend and for helping him with the thorn in his paw. There's Androcles and his friend the lion. Okay, now this is a pretty common type of story. You might have heard of the Aesop's fable about the lion and the mouse, where a lion ends up not eating a little mouse, and the mouse says he'll return the favor. We read this in well-ordered language actually earlier this year. And then the mouse does return the favor by gnawing away at a net that captured the lion later. So this one is more about kind of the friendship, but it's still showing that a lot of times if you do something merciful for someone, then they might repay the favor. Even though we should still do the right thing, even if somebody doesn't repay it to us. So we're going to create a little story of our own as the second part of your history lesson for today. So this story of Androcles and the lion, but also Lion and the Mouse, are about two people, or two characters, not necessarily people, but two characters that could be enemies. Androcles and the lion, they were supposed to be enemies, but they ended up being friends. And I want you to create something kind of like that, where one repays the favor to the other. So I've got a little example for you, and you could use this plot if you are getting stuck and you can't think of something of your own. You could write the same one, but just have your own spin on it, write it a little differently. But I'm going to present over here. All right, so I've got some steps here. First, think of a setting for your story. It could be, ancient Rome or colonial America. You could also have it set in kind of a fantasy world. You could have it with some gods and goddesses, or it could be, about like animals talking to each other even. It can be something creative like that. Now you want two characters that could be enemies or friends, like a pilgrim and Native American. That's what we're going to look at today, since it was just Thanksgiving. A horse and a cab driver, like Black Beauty. Those two could get along, or they could be enemies. And shark and a fish, right? A shark might try to eat the fish. However, what if the fish repays the favor and does something kind for the shark? So you want to have two characters, character A and character B, helping each other in some way. Maybe one is injured, like the lion in the story of Androcles at the beginning. And then the second one repays the character's kindness later. So here's another version of that story that I've created. Now, pilgrims traveled to America on the Mayflower. When they arrived, one young pilgrim stepped off his boat while others surveyed the land and set up camp. He was surprised to hear cries in the woods. A native man was on the ground, injured from a mountain lion. He was in such pain that he could only cry. The young pilgrim ran for help. He found a woman from his ship who came back to wrap the man's leg and gave him medicine. They helped the man return to the campsite and rest. When the man started feeling better, he started helping the young boy and the other pilgrims by pointing out crops that would grow well in the area and even introduced them to Squanto. So basically, same sort of setup for the story as Androcles and the Lion. A pilgrim and a Native American may not get along very well. However, like in this little version of some things that are actually true, like what we read from the book Pilgrims, they choose to be kind and merciful to each other, and they repay each other's kindnesses. So I'd like you to write your own version of this story. If you can't think of anything, you could give your own version of Lion and the Mouse, write your own telling of that, or this one about the Pilgrim boy and the Native American. So you could just write one of those in your own words, and it doesn't have to be in a specific paragraph form, but write a little story of two characters, each showing a kindness or mercy to the other. So that is all. I'll have you upload that to Bright Thinker when you're done. And if you've got questions, we can talk about it during our live session on Monday, and hopefully that will clear things up a little bit. Okay, that I hope that you enjoy it and have fun, make it creative and interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the stories that you write. Talk to you later. Bye.